I'm actually not really prepared to speak, so I'll try my best. So just forgive me if I mess up, because I will, for sure. Everyone always says that you have to have like this spark, like this desire to have service, and if you do, then everything else just kind of falls into place. Like as long as you surrender yourself, and as long as you have that desire inside of you, everything will fall into place for you by God's mercy. So I just kind of want to take a moment to share some of those moments that I've had in my life, my journey. I realized that I haven't had as close of an association with Srila Govindaji as many of you have. I haven't been able to like sit down with him and have hours and hours of conversation. But regardless, I feel that anyone who's ever met him is automatically touched on a deep and personal level for the rest of their lives, whether they realize it or not. And I know that's something that I certainly have experienced, so I'll just take a few minutes to talk about that. As many of you know, I go to college up in the Northeast in New Jersey, and I actually just finished my first year. So last August, as I was preparing to leave, I was just really excited, finally getting to get out of the house and getting all the independence that I really hadn't had back home. But at the same time, there were some things that were holding me back. I did have some qualms about going. I was raised with this community of devotees here, and the fact, going away hundreds and thousands of miles away, especially now when the temple had just finished being built, when everyone was talking about the inauguration, and when everything was finally coming into place, I just thought I had such poor timing. Right when everything comes together, I decided to go miles and miles away. But I made that decision to go, and you might be surprised that I'm saying this, but in retrospect, I honestly feel like that was the best decision that I could have made about my spiritual journey, and I thank Gurudev and Sri Krishna every day that I made that decision, because if it wasn't for that, I don't think I would be where I am today. And it's primarily because when I went to Princeton, I joined the Hindu club on campus, and I began going to satsangs every Friday. And I went to Gita study every Wednesday. And so slowly I found myself exploring my faith more independently. And I realized that when you're at home and you go with family, you tend to take things for granted, or at least I did. But when you go on your own, you begin thinking about things on a deeper level. Everything becomes much more meaningful because it's now your questions, it's your journey. It's not about everyone else anymore. So that's something that I experienced. And while I was there, I met another Vaishnava girl. On Ekadashis, we would get together and chant together and sing. That was really nice. And then on Purnima, I would never have gotten to do this at home, but both of us got together and we cooked and offered bhog or sakraji. And I can't guarantee that the cooking was amazing, because I'm sure it wasn't. But it was amazing just getting to do that with my own hands, because I wouldn't have done that at home. I would have probably let my mom do that. And then I guess lots of other little things that happened. But I think the biggest turning point for me was in January. So Princeton's final exam schedule is just really weird. So we have finals after winter break. So I came home for 3 weeks, went back, took finals, and then they give us a week off. But since I had just been home, there was no point in getting a ticket and coming home for 5 days and then going back again. So I just kind of decided to stay and hang out at campus. And there was absolutely nothing to do. I was just kind of sitting there one day on my bed. My roommates were gone because they lived closer, and their homes were closer. And I was just sitting there thinking about what I wanted to do. There was no studying or anything, no homework. And then I got a phone call from Sri Ramchandra Prabhu, and I was totally shocked. I've never spoken to him, I didn't think he had my number actually. So that was a surprise. So he called me, he's like, I hear you're in the area. I also happen to be here. I'm giving a class today. Do you want to come over? And I was just totally blown away. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. So I said, yeah, I'd love to come, but I don't have any way of getting there. And so he talked to some devotees and arranged rides, going there and coming back. And that evening, I was sitting there and listening to his Bhagavad Gita, and it was really incredible because I met so many people over there that I'm maybe that I was going to just become disconnected from my faith overall, because I felt like this community kind of helped keep that together for me. But when I went over there, like, it was just a surprise, because if you imagine, I applied to like 10 to 12 schools. I ended up in New Jersey, where there's actually a nice like community of devotees, which I totally did not expect. And so all that was great, but I know I'm like running over time, so I'm just gonna finish the story real quickly. So then the school year went by, I finished that up, and then I really wanted to come home for the inauguration, but there were other things going on too. Like there was like this internship, and I had actually decided to stay in New Jersey. But then I decided that I needed to come home, and then circumstances, like family circumstances and things like that, just for those reasons, I had to come home. I really didn't have much of an option. So I ended up leaving that internship behind and coming home. And so just that desire of wanting to come home for the inauguration, that was also fulfilled. And then when I came home, I realized that I didn't just want to like see the inauguration, I kind of wanted to be a part of it too. And like I hadn't even voiced this to anyone. And then like the very first week I was here, I found out that I was going to be directing like a young drama, and I found out that I was going to be making like this video for Shayla Gurudev. And so like I began to realize that all these can't be coincidences. Like almost everything that I had imagined, everything that I thought of just kind of came to fruition by itself. There was no way that all of these were coincidences, that I ended up at Princeton with another community, that I got to come home for the inauguration, just everything fell into place. And so I have to say that all of this was because of Srila Gurudev's mercy. As long as you have that desire in your heart of wanting to serve, of wanting to progress spiritually, he makes sure that it happens. Thank you.